Welcome to Season 3 of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast about living, thriving, and laughing through the ups and downs of neurodiversity. We explore the real stories, the real struggles, and the real strengths that come with thinking differently.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to This Is How My Brain Works, Season 3. Season 3. Today's Season 3. 3 is my favorite number, so I'm super stoked about that.
And there are 3 of us today.
And there are 3 of us today. So today I am joined by Sarah Hines and Michael Collins, and I am Krista Gano, and we are your Sherpas through today's topic. As we do, we talk a little bit before we get started. And the thing that sort of went ding, ding, ding to all of us was really talking about sort of decision overwhelm or paralysis or feeling stuck, and how that relates to our neurodivergence. And you all know that I always come at this with this idea of like, it's hard to know what's in quotes normal when you've only had your own brain to navigate your whole life. So it's hard to imagine that there are people in the world who make decisions fairly easily without catastrophizing or feeling trapped or feeling stuck or overwhelmed. Where are the other lists? The lists I saw in this article, being able to maintain focus, being able to start whatever decision, the start of the decision, work it through to an actual decision, and then enact the decision. Like there are people who do this and they don't catastrophize, perseverate, overwhelm, take ages to make the decision, second guess themselves, all the stuff that we tend to do. So I think it's just great to sort of talk about it and maybe talk about some of the things that we've noticed about our brains, and maybe share some tips on how we can push through some of that to actually make some decisions in timely manners. So let's talk about ADHD and the decision paralysis paradigm.
I'm remodeling a house, and I'm ever-loving mind. And in
I'm
fact,
not sure I'll ever remodel a house because because Greg talks about it constantly, and I am so stressed out about the decision fatigue that I always tell him not now.
This is what I wrote to myself as we were starting today. I am a bless your heart away from losing my ever-loving marbles. Like and all of that is in expletives in my head. It's all swear words. Like all I am is a big bundle of swear words and not a single decision. How's your day going?
Yeah,
I've done a renovation. It is the decision fatigue. That is a real thing. And I think when we on this show we talk a lot about our experience through the neurodiverse lens with some of these things. But these are some universal things that happen to everybody as far as like, decision fatigue is not exclusive to neurodiverse people. However, I think the possibility that it leads to overwhelm or getting dysregulated, I think we're more vulnerable to that type of, going to that dysregulated place faster.
but I also think, Michael, because, as I'm preparing to direct this film, I don't have decision fatigue as of right now as a director. Like, that doesn't mean it won't show up, but because it's my special interest, because I'm absolutely obsessed with it, because I love doing it, I'm not experiencing any of that. And I'm also not experiencing fear. I'm just like, it is like, so I do think that there is a special interest vibe to this that we don't, like when we're in that place, I don't know if we have it as much as we have in other places. Like if you told me to go renovate my kitchen right now, I might throw up and stop and like start shaking and crying in a corner.
Well, that's fascinating because it's like, okay, so this film you're doing, yeah, anyone could ask you a question, you would have an answer because you could draw from a confident spot. Whereas like these things that we're doing where if there's uncertainty or we're unsure about our ability in this specific area,
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe that's where it creeps in because it's like I can do a lot of things house-wise. I mean, I'm fairly handy, but I do know that there's times where I have to tap out and call a contractor or something. But even then you're like, is this the right thing we should be doing? Did we do this the right way? Will this, there's just those uncertainties that will creep in. Likewise in this kind of new career mode thing I'm in, where I'm visiting a couple different places where I can potentially go work. Maybe this isn't like my top choice of things to do, but I think it's like the responsible thing to do, maybe, um, or maybe it isn't that thing that I'm 100% confident in my abilities in doing. I think I can kind of get my way through it with, a lot of people with ADHD have a lot of grit, and they just have to kind of find a way through things, and it's not always easy. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from with this. But like visiting someone today going, well, everything they said seems fine, but why am I having this feeling of like, I don't know, the little bit of unease around it? Is it buyer's remorse? Is it like just something that happens when when you've made a decision, or where you think, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing now? Do you start questioning that?
Well, I mean, I can tell you when I coach artists, because I think almost all artists are somewhere in the umbrella of neurodivergent. And I hear myself all the time saying to them, you know, not because, artists, I think as artists, in which we all are, we all have to make those decisions at some point in our lives. No, I don't care who you are. I've got a friend who was absolutely famous when he's younger, and he's now working at Trader Joe's. Like you sort of have to continue as artists to navigate whatever the world is throwing at you. And I think we unfortunately have this idea that if we take a job or take a this, that we're failures in other areas, or we make it so black and white. And I'm constantly talking to artists that I work with about how they're just small decisions to get us to the next space. Because in this world of creativity, we've chosen in some ways to give away the banker job that is going to be logical and direct for a job that actually feeds our soul differently. And in that, there's just going to be times that you make decisions, but they don't need to last forever. They don't need to be the thing that's going to like define you for your life. They're the job. They're just the job to get you to the next space where you can create, because we cannot create when we're hungry and scared.
Mm-hmm. My daughter has for this that's really been helpful for me. And it's the sooner you make the wrong choice, the sooner you're going to make the right choice.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that great? I was like, I love how failing that is. Like fail forward. Because
Yeah.
that's really what walking is. It's falling forward. So can we, like, I don't know.
But I get it. But I think the thing that's really interesting, or the thing that you're talking about too, though, Michael, is like how just because we know that logically, and when I can sit here and say it, and we can like encourage each other and all that stuff, doesn't mean that we don't have the voice in our head as soon as this goes away that's like gonna poke at you to tell you you're doing it all wrong. I don't know. This summer I've named my inner nasty voice Bernice. And so I often tell Bernice she needs to go sit down, and then I got it. And it works. And I know that sounds crazy a little bit, but
No,
there are
that's good.
times where it's the earworm, right? The internal dialogue that is so nasty about myself, so nasty about my choices, and will not go away until I just said, Bernice, I want to thank you for trying to protect me, but you need to go sit down.
I think that's an amazing, I mean, that's a self-awareness thing that is tremendously helpful once you kind of understand that you have that part of you, and that they're trying to be a protector of you. You can then say, I got this. But it has to be, you almost have to get agreement with that protector. Like, okay, I understand. Thank you. You have to acknowledge, thank, and then you
Yeah.
can go sit down.
It makes me sound like I'm crazy, but there's actually a lot of research behind it that talks about sort of, I mean, you don't have to name it a name like I did, but like there's, and I heard it from one of our ADHD, like people that comes up on my Instagram feed. And I wish I remembered her name, because I would totally She was British, and she said, name it, and then tell it to shut up. And I was like, I'm gonna try it. And I got to tell
Name
you,
it to tame it.
it's worked. But
That works in couples too, by the way. My sister does that for the roommate who left the mess, and they've named the roommate. So instead of getting mad at each other, they get mad at the roommate, and then they just clean up after that roommate. And they say, and then they can go to their spouse and say, "Oh yeah, effing so and who didn't do the dishes, and I had to do
yeah,
them."
Is it fictitious roommate or an actual
Yeah,
roommate?
no,
fictitious.
fictitious.
That's pretty funny.
Harry didn't do the dishes, and I had
And
to
my
I
do
like
sister says
that.
it works
Oh,
for
Harry.
her and her husband.
Yeah,
Really
oh,
well.
interesting.
So,
There's no blame, shame going
but it's,
on. You're
yeah,
just
it's the same as Krista with Bernice.
what Krista, what you were saying as far as like you know, someone being artistic and yet they're going to do something else. I think what clicked in my mind was oftentimes we will, I think neurodiverse community will do a fair amount of masking in certain situations, taking on other personas, different personas. And it's like maybe I was thinking about like, well, I'm gonna have to be this persona now that doesn't fill me up, that doesn't give me like creative energy. And it's like, why am I severing that part of me? Why can't I bring that artistic side
Well,
of me?
you're an actor, though. Why also, or
Yeah.
why can't you just look at it as like that's the guy that's got to go do the work? And I know that sounds crazy,
Right.
but I have a dear friend that has started doing that. She said, I at work I have to say things that are uncomfortable, and I walk around the rest of the day with this thing in my head going like, you shouldn't have had to say that, blah 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 blah. And it's her job to say that, by the way. It's like I don't want to tell you what it is, but she's a care actor for doctors, and so it's like her job to say sort of uncomfortable and crazy things so that it trains them how to communicate with people. But it doesn't always feel good, right? Like she walks away and she's like, I just feel depleted. I feel like, and so she said, you know what? I just decided that Barbara is the one that goes to work, and Barbara's neurotypical, and she just does her job and like leaves.
So how does that
And it helps separate her from having those feel like she is masking, but it's almost like choosing to mask. It's like choosing to say, and I've had to do that with jobs, Michael, where I've gone in and I've been like, I do not believe that I used to be an executive and now I'm doing XYZ. And especially like after the last recession when we all took like anything we could get in terms of jobs. And it's like, I don't believe I'm back in the mailroom type of a thing. And but I do think that sometimes you just sort of have to go like, that's not my creative soul doing that. We're taking a chunk of time and we're going to send Steve into the field, and Steve is going to do the job. And then
so what is happening?
that.
Why is that more I don't know, not bearable, but like you're able to kind of function in the way Sarah put that story, Harry or whoever it was, the roommate, it actually kind of adds some levity to the whole thing. What is it that happens, that shift that happens when you name like that part of you, or you make up imaginary person, or you're going to take on this persona to go into do this job that might not light you up? Like
It
what's
helps us
happening?
compartmentalize and act as if, because if we have an idea that neurotypical Steve makes decisions effortlessly, then maybe that day at work,
No
those
more
decisions
decision fatigue.
are made effortlessly. I mean, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to come home and crash and be freaking exhausted, or that it's a long-term solution by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't know. I mean, we're creatives. What are some tips to make things more
Maybe it's
bearable
that
in
it's
our lives?
finite.
What's that?
Maybe it's that it's finite. You know it's going to end.
Oh, that's a
Don't
good,
Oh, that's
take it
interesting.
home with you.
Yeah.
Like
that's a good
not,
point.
um,
It's hard
Yeah.
for us to untangle sometimes.
Well,
And I
yeah,
think
okay,
doing
so
that helps us like unhook.
this
Yeah.
untangle, but we also mentioned, I don't know
I
if
mean,
you've
we're masking anyway.
yet in this episode, but before when we were chatting, this idea of like feeling trapped or caged, or like I don't have a choice, this is where I have to be, and there's some anxiety about that. Like I mentioned my daughter going into kindergarten and she's having a tough transition, and she was saying like, why do we have to go every day? Like at that time, like I'm not ready to go yet. Like you guys are forcing me to do it. And so she's like yelling at us and acting out. And and so that happened this morning. And then after I had this conversation with this future employer, I was like, I'm feeling the same thing. This is weird. Like I'm feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to do it on my own terms in my own way when I'm ready, but like,
That's why so many of us don't have bosses and like we're
yeah,
entrepreneurs because I think it's really tough. I think I would never listen, Michael, what you're I don't know the extent of what, this situation, the job situation that you're talking about in terms of I could probably tell you it's never going to be as bad as you've made it up in your head in terms of that strictness around time and whatever. But
mhm.
I couldn't work for somebody else like that. Like I have to be a consultant because I need to be able to say, no, I can't do that. No. Or, like I did today, like I woke up today and I was, I'm still coming off of surgery. So I just like, I'll have these times where I'm just all of a sudden I'm like, I need to go back to sleep for like 45 minutes. And
Mhm.
I want to, and I will make that time up probably at 10 o'clock tonight when I tend to have a weird burst of stupid energy. But I really do need to control my own schedule and control when my dopamine hits and control,
Mhm.
those things. And so it would terrify me to go into a job. I don't know if I
So
could do it.
let me ask this though. Okay, so now for those listening that are neurodiverse and they it's like, well, if I don't go to this job, I don't pay rent or groceries and stuff like that. We've talked about like alter egos or personas or whatever that you could go
Yeah.
in with. Like what would be some other things as far as how to kind of make that more just intrinsically motivating or bearable or whatever you'd want to say, because the humdrum 9 to 5 existence for a lot of people, it can be kind of rough. So how
Well,
could we instead of because we can't like well just quit your job because that's not who you are.
no, but
Be a
again, like
consultant.
with all of the actors that I've coached through the years, I think because actors have to usually get the 9 to 5 or the similar job, and then they might have to take off to do an audition, or they might get booked and they need 3 days off, and so they're often seeking employment with people that have boundaries, but also has some flexibility, right? Like that's what they have to do as actors. And in coaching them, I always say you should be upfront with that as much as you can, and then do your best. Like don't be the F up who, doesn't show up on time initially. Like show them that when you're there, you do the work, and then after a little bit of time, flexibility gets baked in because they trust you. It's just about a sense of trust. And so I don't know if that helps, but I do think that when you have an employer and you say to them, "Hey, listen, I want to be honest. I've got this thing called ADHD. What that means is that there's times that I'm going to hyper focus and get so much done for you, you will think I'm a magician. And what it also means is that if there are days that I can't perform at that level, I want to be honest about it and problem solve that. And I don't know, granted, I also have the autism piece of this puzzle, so that direct conversation is not as hard for me, but I would say as honest as you can be about how your brain works, coming from the place of I want this to work for both of us. And so I want to talk through some strategies or just let you know what's up with me. I think it is great. But then again, the first time I asked to not mask and then didn't, I was let go from a client let me go. So,
This brings up another thing. I mean, not to take this is a whole different episode, but those job applications, a lot of them will have, on the disorder section, and they will list very clearly, ADHD. Some even says, and some of them, I think even have started saying neurodiversity or something. And I always struggle with like, am I checking that box or not? Because if you check the box, Krista, then what you said, if you're transparent about like, hey, I can hyper focus, but then there's other days where I might need a little time out here and there. That can be that should be accommodated if you check that box. But if you don't check that box, they could say like, well, you never told us this, and I don't want to give you extra time or whatever.
Well, hopefully you're not working for a huge corporate conglomerate that, I mean, you, Michael, and what you're looking at. But yeah, I mean, all of that's true. But I also, I mean, I just think being upfront and honest is the best way to sort of go, because I don't know how to be any other way. Like, it's going to show up. Let's be clear. Like, whether I checked a box or not, it's showing up.
Yeah.
And I do think that businesses, and maybe Sarah has some more insight into this, but I'm seeing it on LinkedIn more and more. It's like, how do we support our neurodiverse? Because I think people are realizing, A, that it affects a lot more people than they've ever thought. And B, neurodiverse employees, awesome.
Kick ass.
They kick ass. But you have
harness
to support
that
them.
energy in the right way, they can be huge.
Yeah. And loyal and will stay forever at places, but you got to support them.
And funny. Oh my God.
Hilarious. Sarah.
If they say so themselves. So I totally yes, and yes, all the things that y'all are saying. And I am hearing someone near and dear to my heart who was in corporate America giving them the advice Krista was giving. Just communicate your disability. I think it's like, it's showing up and, you know, blah, blah, blah. You're an amazing employee in all these other ways. This was a little different than some of what we may be talking about because this person was a long-term employee. So he'd already proven his worth and that he was a good employee and they liked him. And I was like, you should just say it. No. And we'll never tell my employer because they will absolutely not give me things. Cause you know, when you're dealing with, let's be outrageous, $300 million and you misplaced your decimal, that's a big deal. So no, I can't tell them and I never will. I think that was a mistake because if they do in fact let you go, it's making the wrong decision fast and getting to move on. So like working for 20 years at a company that is undermining you because they're not supporting how you're neurodiverse, you're going to end up burnt out, all the things. You know, it's not a healthy situation long-term. So the sooner you find that out by disclosing that you have this. Now that, all of that said, that's an extremely privileged position to potentially sabotage your employment at a location because you assume that you're going to get another employment offer. So this isn't advice for every single person. But
I don't think any of it can be, right?
Yeah. But in as much as we can be honest about who we are, put on a mask in a levity, in a funny kind of way. Like I'll be Janice at work and Janice doesn't take any bullshit, but she, you know, also makes decisions fast and is not, you know, all the things. She's not a people pleaser. And when I get home, I get to be a people pleaser to my dog, whatever your thing is. I made a funny example of myself. You're welcome.
Which I would again argue that people probably do. I mean, again, I'm not in a neurotypical brain, so I don't know, but I would imagine that there is, whether you name it or don't, I would imagine there's a good part of that to get through the day of in corporate America in general for everyone.
Maybe, but some people really just like their job.
Sure.
Like, and the person
and like the schedule and like that it's, you know,
that's the person who wouldn't disclose that they had, well, they had dyslexia. He wouldn't disclose that. And he's like, but I love my job and I love like that. You know, moving commas is my favorite thing from 9.
Well, there is something safe. I mean, you can get safety and security from routine. That's why I find it kind of ironic that I resist routine or like, what am I going to do tomorrow morning? I don't know because I don't know how I'm going to feel. It's like people who set out their workout clothes because they're going to wake up at 6 and go work out. It's like, maybe I will, maybe. But it's like if you could kind of get into some sort of routine or, know what you're gonna you kind of save that brain power in a way, you know. It's just like that's
it's magic. You don't lay out your clothes, I lay out my clothes.
I actually just told my husband today, I said, my senior year, I decided I was going to be in theater for the rest of my life. So my senior year in high school, I was like, I'm going to be on drill team. I'm going to be on dance team. That's what I'm going to do because I will never, ever do that again. And what I did not anticipate was how awesome it was to have a calendar that told you which uniform to wear at least 3 days a week. And I was like, oh, it's it's socially acceptable. I don't have to worry about it. And I'm just told wear the white skirt and the blue top. And I'm like, I'm in. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I get it. Like I get some of the ease and the autopilot. And I remember at one point saying when I had a leadership position, I was like, man, I just want to get a job at Banana Republic and fold clothes into tissue paper. Like I just wanted something to let my brain be like, simple. And no offense, because I mean I actually did work at Banana Republic through college and was their visual coordinator. So I did that for years. So it was a comfort place for me. But I do think that there is some comfort from that. But in terms, but what I'd love to know, and we're going to go long on this one because it's just going to be what it is. But what I'd love to also talk about is what I've noticed this summer. And I think what happens is that when you are in a place of decision fatigue or paralysis, is all of the executive function stuff that we struggle with really gets blown up, right? Like it took me, I'm telling you, you guys, so this surgery that I got, minor procedure surgery for everybody who's listening, but the reason why I think it went so well for me is because I got slotted in to a cancellation and I had no decision-making potential. They called me. They said, you're going to go in 14 days, or actually less than that, 12 days. And and then they just sort of railroaded me through a process that for pre-op was normally like a 30-day process. I just sort of like got railroaded through. And I've had the most glorious, like, I think in terms of how it could have gone. And I think it's because they just, there was zero decisions for me and there was zero places for me to, I mean, I could have always, I guess, hopped off and been like, never mind, I'm not doing it, but I knew I needed to get this done. So the fact that it was not 3 months from now, it was not where I could have gotten busy and like moved it, like it was like just balls to the wall, like let's go, I think was the key to my success. And my husband sometimes says that to me too. He'll just be like, sometimes I just need to take the decision making away from you. Like, I just need to go, no, we're going hiking, get in the car right now. So that I
Right.
don't get into that place where I talk myself out of it or I find how it's going to be.
Because yeah, there are those things where and I've done that with this job search. It's just like, but with this place, I can see this, this, and this, and with that place, I can see this, this, and this, and there's, I don't know if it's decision fatigue, but it's like fear of making the wrong decision
Right.
because of I can see all of the options. Like I'm not, my brain, whether it's the frontal cortex or not, is not allowing for whether it's discernment or paring down or coming to that conclusion and then like being okay with it and then moving forward with it. It's like, well, we've already talked about it. This place is this, this, and this. So you don't have to there, it's no longer in consideration. It's gone. Instead, it's like all these things kind of still floating around and then being afraid to make the right decision. Um, so maybe these are two different things.
And then you don't make a decision. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like we were in the process of possibly putting in a new, I mean, this is like a new HVAC system, which we've now chosen to put off for a little while because the decision making became so overwhelming. And I was like, we're about to cool down and our heat and our furnace works great. It was our cooling that wasn't great. And I was like, why do it now? Like, and so we're putting it, but we're partially putting it off to pay for the surgery first. But it was sort of this, like, you get to the, like, I just don't want to make the decision, or I just don't, and then that hits your time management because you're swirling and things take longer and your focus is screwed up because you're living with all of the, what I call living in the wreckage of your future. Like all of that is happening in your head. And I think as a creative person, Michael, like you can see all this potential, but the truth is the potential isn't real. You're the one who makes the potential real once you make a decision and step in. And there's zero decisions for the most part as an adult that you can't choose 6 months or a year from now to change if it wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I mean, it might cost more money or more time than you think, or it might feel uncomfortable, but we're really not in a place, or you're not, that at some point a different decision cannot be made with some strategy and thought.
Yeah, that's true. The catastrophizing piece comes in like, well, I'm wasting my life. Like I have to make the perfect choice, so I'm just living everything to the fullest and not wasting anything.
What a lie to Americans. What a lie. It's the
Right.
L'Oreal. I'm worth it. I'm worth it.
So yeah, what would be some hacks to I mean, we've kind of introduced a few fun tools and hacks like naming, like Sarah, I like the kind of the fictitious roommate, blame it on Harry.
Naming your own worst cheerleader.
Yeah.
And maybe here's an idea. Since you were on, what was it, cheer, dance, drill? What'd you do, Krista?
Yeah, it was dance. It was like a dance team.
So exciting. Maybe you also have someone, yeah, because I was never invited. I have 2 left feet. But maybe you also name the good part of you. So say, Bernice, I know you're trying to protect me. Go get with Kathy or whoever she is, who's always your rah-rah gas you up girl.
Well, see, I think I'm my Rob. I want to name that as the real me.
And do it. Then say, Bernice, you and Krista need to get on the same page. I know you're trying to protect me. I don't know.
But I think some of that, some of that too is just practice. I mean, we've said that before too, is sort of practicing note. And Michael, you mentioned that. It's like, I'm noticing that's an earworm that's not productive. So I'm going to name it, and you can name it, whether you name it Bernice or like, we're not doing that. That's not productive. Go be quiet. Like whatever that is, it's like naming the thing and then giving it a different job, whether it's to sit down or whatever. And so, but I also think that this summer, I've really tried to have grace with myself in terms of like, I know I've got 3 or 4 stupid little things that need to get done. Paying for updating your stupid thing, for your license plate and all that shit. And it'll get done. Like, yeah, car registration. This will get done literally on the last day, probably it's before it's due. And do you need to do that too, Sarah? You're writing that down? But I think, it's one of those things, and we'll have to make sure that that you don't show my address on that. We'll have to blur that out, Michael. But I think it's just having grace with myself that if it happens on the last day before it's due, that's okay. If I'm the one who screws up and pays the $10 late fee, then it's not like, come on. Like, I just trying to have some more grace with myself, because I'm trying to recognize, that we have to ride energy. And unfortunately, we do not have natural dopamine. That is a problem. We have to find the dopamine. In fact, Laura and I, my best friend, will often be like, "Ooh, you riding some dopamine this morning?" Like, we just like encourage each other's dopamine. But, and then go and, oh, this is going to be a dopamine morning. I'm going to get some shit done. Or it's just not. It's not. And I know that when you have a 9 to 5, that's not always possible. Although I've had 9 to 5s and have sat in an office and sat on Google for half the day. So I know it's happening. I know it's happening, regardless of where your physical butt is sitting. So, but I think just having some grace that some days it's just not gonna come together, and that's okay.
Yep. Happy
What
hour.
if it's all the days?
I have felt like that sometimes. In fact, just today, where I was supposed to be a little bit more, I got some stuff done, but not quite as I wanted to. For lack of a better word, I prayed for it. I was like, I just need like 2 good dopamine days, like just 2, like we're gonna catch up on all the stuff.
Do drugs help? I'm
For
kidding.
some, probably.
Stimulant medication
For
for
some, probably.
ADHD.
That's just not my jam.
No,
There's also like, and you got to be careful about the supplements and the how much fillers there are in all these things, but like, there's different types of mushroom thing like lion's mane and
Like that's really
ashwagandha.
that's actually interesting that you say that because because part of the surgery thing was for me to come off of everything
okay.
before
Caffeine.
surgery. And because some of the stuff that I take, like turmeric and some of that is a blood thinner, I had to wait till 10 days after surgery to reintroduce it. So today's my first day of bringing some of that stuff in. So I also wonder if some of I mean, listen, I just came out of surgery. I've got fatigue. I'm healing, all that stuff. But I have been wondering if some of my lack of initiative is because I went back down to ground zero on things like the ashwagandha and the turmeric and the ginger and all the stuff that I
The
do.
vitamin B3 and the
The
omega
B3 and the
fish
D
oil.
and the K2. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of that stuff that helps us. I've been off of it now for I can't do math, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. And so I'm just now starting to bring it back. So it'll be really interesting to see how
Yeah,
I feel,
for
if it
sure.
was making a difference at all or not.
I did go off my stimulant medication I've been off it for several months now, but when I was studying for this exam, I was like, well, I better take it this morning when I go in and take this test. And I did notice a difference. It was something, it was a daily thing, so you don't really
Yeah.
know the difference. Then when you're off it for several months and you take it one day, you're like, oh, okay, well, that's what this thing does. And I did notice a difference. It wasn't enough to where it's like, I got to get back on this every day, but I definitely noticed.
Yeah.
You think that being on it helped kind of retrain your brain so that when you're not on it, you can actually behave differently?
I honestly do. I do believe that for me, I think that was it was part of the
So some
part of kind
training.
of the talk therapy, part of the medication, part of the self-education, and then incorporating tools. And I think that all led to me being way more effective off of it. Once I stopped, yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to say one last little tip. I don't know if, and we can keep talking or not. I don't care. But I do think finding community that you can be completely honest with has been life-changing, because like I said, I had the experience where I revealed what was going on with me with a client, and I got and it went awry. And which taught me that I can't do that, right? Like I still have to mask up. And but that has been so much easier of a realization to have, knowing that I have places like this where I can talk about it and be completely honest, or like my best friend who's also neurodivergent, or actually, and so many of the people that I'm in community with in my artistic life that are all neurodivergent. We talk about it really openly and share our needs really openly. And because that is a portion of my life, it makes masking in the smaller parts of my life that exist that I still have to mask in so much more okay or doable, because I don't feel like that's my life anymore like it used to be. It's just a portion of my life.
Interesting.
Yeah, your
That's
cup's
cool.
getting filled up.
Love that.
So I have places where I can be authentic, and that has helped in the few places where I can't be authentic.
Yeah.
That will be our last tip and tool for this episode. I think that's a good one to land on. That's a big one. Find community where you can be yourself. Absolutely. That's great. Love it.
All right. Well, for for
For a
Sarah,
coffee, Sarah Hines.
Michael, and Krista, we thank you for joining us on this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, and we will see you next time.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. This podcast is the creative work of This Is How My Brain Works. It is not authorized for use in training, development, or refinement of artificial intelligence or machine learning systems. Any attempt to copy, analyze, or repurpose this audio for AI training is explicitly prohibited.